order the 895th meeting of the Board of Directors of MSAD27. Roll call, please.
Keith John
Here.
Isabel Lozey.
Here.
Abby Fuller.
Here.
Toby John
Here.
Gary Sibley.
Here.
Sarah Ashton.
Here.
And Leroy McKenzie. Here. Good time for me to welcome Leroy to the board. I got notified last Sunday, the Let's Stop by my house, and he had already gone to see the town manager, Susie, to let her know that he would be stepping down. And then the town acted quickly. They had a few interested parties, and Leroy was selected by the town. So I believe the way that works, you finish the year out until the next municipal election, and then you would have to run again at that point in time. So we welcome you, and we hope we open you for your time on the board.
Any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none.
Approval of minutes for the 894th meeting on April 1st, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Superintendent's report.
I want to just give you an update on our progress on Esther 2 projects. Esther 2, as you know, are part of the second round of stimulus funds for the school department, for the school district. And although in my notes I said I still have not heard from the DOE regarding the gym project, I did hear back from them on Friday. And the team lead, Karen Kuzniak, she did encourage us to apply for the gym project if we so choose. She said there's still a chance that that it may not be accepted on the federal level after the state has audited it, but the state is approving some construction projects statewide, and she said it fits in that scope. So what we're doing right now is I'm getting a second quote off of the first quote I got back in October when we were exploring this. What we're looking at, Leroy, is possible bubble dome gym structure to go on here in the back of the building because the school does not have a gymnasium. So I'm trying to get a second quote from a different company. We'll compare those two. Peter right now is looking at groundwork pumps and a slab. If you remember last time we talked about tapping into the biomass system for a heated slab, so that would be our heat source for that building. Peter tells me the electric runs right there as well, so we're not far from electricity from heat. Robbie and Mr. Netto is looking at the cost of flooring. We're recommending like a rubberized field house type flooring, so for multi-different sports. Also looking at equipment, basketball hoops and that type of thing that would go in that structure. So when we know more, we know more. But right now, it does look like we'll be able to include the gym project if it falls within budget. And some of these might have to shift if it doesn't. But we'll get prices, and then we'll take that to you to see what you think about that. In addition to that, right now we have a Valley River Middle School Social Studies curriculum project that's been put in there. We have bleachers for the stage at CHS. The bleachers we currently have are no longer meet code, so we can wrap that around social distancing. There's a sports equipment project because now we are not supposed to share sports equipment. We need more sports equipment, so Mr. Coletta has put together a sports equipment project. School security project, there's some additional cameras in some of our blind spots. Fort Kent camera system upgrade project for this building. Safety vestibule project, if you remember, we did the renovating loan for a revolving renovation loan for the Fort Kent vestibule. Now with construction costs through the roof, we're going to need additional funds. So we're putting a project in for additional funds for that. And then we're looking at the B-Wing window project. And I did put a little disclaimer in your notes that when we put in the C-Wing windows, we had checked with the manufacturer, we had checked with our carpenter, We had checked with our insurer to make sure that we were fine taking out the current windows. So if you look at these windows here, these have not yet been replaced. Popping them out and popping in new vinyl sided windows without interrupting the integrity of the walls. And it was a yes on all fronts. We did get a visit from the fire marshal, and it was a no from the fire marshal. So the fire marshal would like us to replace one window in each adjoining room of C-Wing. So the window that you connect two classrooms, replace that with an egress window. So we're going to add those egress windows into the B-Wing project and then swap them out. We'll pop in an egress window and put a regular window where we don't need them. A-Wing didn't need any of those egress windows because they have doors in each A-Wing classroom. So they have a second entrance. So if you hear that we put all the wrong windows in Fort Kent Elementary School, we didn't put the wrong windows, we just got, we got our hand tapped by the fire marshal. And in hindsight, we probably should have added him to the list of people to check on, but it was a yes from everyone else, and we'll have a quick easy solution by swapping out those windows in the new budget. So that right now, it looks like we're going to wrap up with our ESSER 2 projects. In addition to that, we're looking at bringing back a second nurse in ESSER 2 as well, to hold on to that second nurse, and the temporary support personnel, which is our floating subs. We're looking to bring that back as well for staffing. You know about your ESSER 3 funding. We talked about that last time. We're just looking ahead. I know Mr. Netto has just submitted a big project for ESSER 3 wrapped around the learning gap. And I'm going to be working with Mr. Coletta to do the same as well. We really want to address learning interruption in ESSER 3. That application has not been submitted, has not been released yet, so we don't know when that funding is going to be available. Just to remind the board, we have 1.8 million of funding in ESSER 3. We'd like to stretch that out for 3 years. So we'd like to make sure that we have the support we need, especially since most of our infrastructure and technology things will have been completed in the previous allocations. We can really focus in on the learning gap in ESSER 3. So I'll give you an update when we know more about the timing of that. But when we met with the regional superintendents last Thursday, all indications pointed to sometime late July, early August for that funding to become available. So right now our focus is on ESSER 2 and working to see if we can secure that gym, which would be amazing. Mr. Netto talking about the possibilities. He did reach out to the fire marshal, by the way, on this dome project, just to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And it does look like if we connect it to the building, we'll have to add sprinkling to that structure so that it does meet fire code. But we'll make sure we work with the fire marshal clearly on all those things. So that's just an update for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. The next thing I have under superintendent, we did talk last meeting about not always sharing the happy, good things about what's going on in the district, but let's have conversations about things that are really bothering us. We have a huge concern with filling vacancies, and right now we're getting by. But I look at the future of some of these vacancies that we're really having a hard time filling. And I think it has every single one of us administrators very worried. I could have Jill talk to you right now about the trying to fill ed tech vacancies, especially in the task room, very difficult. Jill is proposing that we look towards negotiations and finding a solution to specifically the task room ed techs, because of what that entails and how much we're having a hard time for that. I'm looking at our bus driver custodians, and their average age, I believe, is
50s, early 60s.
So we're going to have a huge turnover of bus drivers, custodians, and we don't have anyone knocking down the door to come drive buses. Just that Paul Misha, who said after retirement he's coming back. So these are some concerns, and teaching vacancies are concerned. We put postings out, and we had some great applicants for our middle school social studies. I think we had 5 or 6, Mr. Coletta? 6, which is a lot. But our science position has 2. So we're really looking at having a dearth of teachers here in the future, and it's a concern. I think it's going to be a statewide concern, but specifically here, I'm just bringing this to your attention because I don't know how creative we can get about trying to attract individuals, and maybe we'll need to look at our policies around attracting talent and see if we can look into doing different things. Maybe it's the way we're posting it. Maybe it's where we're posting. I don't know, but I did want to bring this to the board, so maybe you can weigh in on it, and maybe my stress I can share with you collectively, so we can brainstorm together. Anybody have any thoughts? Are you seeing the same thing in other industries? Is it just education?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
But I need to hire somebody tomorrow. Yeah, and I need to, and I can't find it.
MHC right now is in the same position. We had 3 people in our program just today resign.
Hopefully things change. Hopefully things change as we exit COVID. But I just know that if I had 2 bus drivers announce a retirement today, we'd be really, yeah. And that's just real. And it's happening in neighboring districts, and they're not filling it. So it is a concern.
Have we, you were a graduate of UMass, right? And they don't have their education program anymore. Have we talked to them about how that's, I'm assuming that's impacting us.
It is because, we always had that direct line.
Yeah.
And I am on the board of visitors, and it's something we discuss often, and I think now we've gone through the 3rd or 4th president since the president who made the recommendation, and I think it's now just normal, unfortunately. We try to reach out to UMPI as best we can, but even UMPI is saying, hey, we're getting 5 people in our teaching program. Even Farmington, we used to have all kinds of teachers. They're a teacher school. I mean, a lot of these teachers are promised jobs years before they graduate because they're just, nobody's able to. Yeah.
So when I came out of school, and I know I managed Title II firms, and you can use some of those things for sign-on bonus. But I'm just throwing it out there. When I graduated from school, for PT school anyway, we used to have tuition reimbursement. I know that's a big issue. Some people getting out of school and having to pay back student loans. But with that came a contractual agreement that you would owe them 5 years, and it would decrease the amount that they would give. But we might have to be creative and entice some people with. I think tuition reimbursement would be a way to look at it, or even some bonuses, because
I know I've had a couple of community members reach out to me and say, I'm not certifiable, but if I had 9 credits in this, I could earn a conditional certification. Maybe we can work with these individuals to say, hey, we can reimburse you these courses if you come work for us. I think these are things we're going to need to talk about to just attract. I don't know that we're going to have traditional teachers in the sense as much as we're going to have non-traditional teachers. And you've seen some of the last hires that we've had even in this district. We've had some people that didn't go to teacher school, and I think we're going to have to really look at that.
We talked about the busing at the last meeting of negotiations, and I think that's something that I have to just talk about how we can get the bus drivers, because teachers are important, but if the kids don't come to school, it doesn't matter.
Right. And Peter Associates been really vocal about, I'll train you, we'll have a rodeo here, we'll have, it's just to get people to come to the door. So I just didn't want to share with you, and I think maybe we should continue to talk about this as we move forward. If any ideas come, and I'm gonna write down what Sharon said a while ago. I'll start a running list, and if you see things or hear things that we can add to a running list of ideas, I think that'd be a good way to start just getting the ball rolling. And that's all we have for superintendent. You do have some administrator reports. You should in your packet have one from Mr. Doucette, Mr. Michelle, Van Marie, who's on Zoom with us, and Ms. Stacy Spear. If you have any questions for them, they're all available.
Moving on to committee reports, negotiations committee.
So we did have one round of Teamster negotiations, and we are negotiating with the bus driver custodian group, the secretary group, and the food service group for Teamsters. And Lauren was supposed to get back to me. Lauren is their representative. He was supposed to get back to me, get back to us with some dates to meet again. I have not received those dates. I did reach out to him late last week, and he said he would have them by tonight, but I don't have them. In the meantime, we also have teacher negotiations that the teachers are ready to get started. And I'm holding off ed tech so that we can finish at least Teamsters and before we roll that in, but we're going to have to set some dates. Well, first off, we're gonna have to fill Mr. Roulette's vacancy, and Barry was on the negotiation committee with Keith and Toby, and we're gonna need to fill that. And then we're going to need to set some dates. I told the teachers I'd try to get back to them this week on at least an initial date to start the conversation. So I would like to do that if possible. Now I'll bring up those dates while you guys talk about who's going to take Barry's place.
Does anyone have any interest?
What do they do?
So you want to give her a run then?
Look at posture. That's mostly what it is. And there's some like big threatening. It's all right. No, we usually just, the fact the way it works is generally the union members come forward with their leader who make a proposal for things they want to see addressed. We generally have some ideas of the things we are looking to accomplish this year or over the contract period. And there's a little horse trading that goes on. We talk about the things we're not willing to do, the things they're not willing to do, and we try to find a place where we can exist. Generally, it's fairly amicable. It doesn't really get too out of hand. It's interesting to kind of see what goes on behind the scenes. You get to see group dynamics. That's why I enjoy that. That's why it's just watching groups of people work together. And sometimes with disparate views and things you really want to get accomplished. So it's not boring. It's okay. I like it.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to get their point of view of where they stand as an employee and what their challenges might be throughout the work year. And allows us the chance to maybe improve their working conditions and, work with one another, not be an adversary of them, but we're all on one team and trying to work together. So it's a great opportunity.
The board committee is usually 2 or 3 people. And right now the chair of that committee is Toby, and Toby does the majority of the discussion with the union leader. So the other 2 are mainly observing and discussing either through while we caucus, or you can ask questions or negotiations. But the primary role is Toby's.
And typically with the Teamsters, we negotiate during the workday. We'll set up 9 o'clock start time, and we'll try to go till 2, 3 o'clock, just to try to get as much done as possible in the day. With the teachers, they've opted to start negotiating at 3 o'clock after their workday. They're probably gonna go like 3 to 5, 3 to 6, a couple of times in order to get that done. That's the time.
Well, I have some extra time in my schedule. You can put me on. Unless Izzy wants it. You want to go for it?
Actually, what I was going to recommend is, because sometimes these things come up and one of us gets pulled away. Is there anything preventing us from having two, like one goes in, one goes in?
Yeah, we could do that.
Because I think that it would be nice, because there's times, I mean, last time I got pulled into court and I started and I had to leave and I couldn't come back.
Yeah.
So,
Good idea.
Yeah, so we'll do that. So with regard to teachers, they had given the following dates, May 4, which is tomorrow, but that's not gonna happen. May 6, May 10, 17, 19, and 21. Those all work for the teacher negotiations, and again, they would be like a 3 to 6 o'clock picture. Does any of those work for you?
17. I don't remember the dates you said after.
19 and 20. 6, 10, 17, 19, 20.
I'm good with 17.
I can do the 17.
Okay, so I'll let them know on first one to do the 17th, and then give that to the two of you.
We have a NAVAC meeting, but we'll just change, well, make sure I'm on the right month here. We're good, can we, know the school committee, but that's at 6.
Yeah.
We're good.
We'll go through. Yeah, perfect. Okay, we'll do that. And then I'll send you an email when I hear back from Lauren for Teamsters and see if we can line up a date for that. Keith, you had said early on that May was good. Is it still okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Policy committee.
Policy committee, we have a second read of 3 policies. I believe you should have it you should have them in your packet. First one is GCSAS, which is the employee use of social media. I took out all of the red line and just did the final copy for you to see how it looks like without all the things X'd out. Second one is GEI, staff gifts and solicitations, and then the last one is IKF, which is our graduation requirement.
Ben, most of our policies are based on templates, right? Provided by the NSMA.
That's correct. Yeah, like so for these ones here, the only one that I would say is probably not a boilerplate would be our social media networking. And we went in a more detailed direction with that one.
Just to give our newer board members a little bit more clarity.
Yeah.
Want maybe explain the process of how we implement it.
Yeah, so typically, we'll look at, for these are more brought up because of issues that have happened, especially for the first 2. The last one is out of a need for our graduation requirements to have to change based on the direction that we're going. And I will reach out to Main School Management, which is our association, and they have a database of policies that they share with superintendents, and they'll send a boilerplate. It'll say, add your district name here, and you plug it in, and then we'll work to tweak it to our needs. But typically, those are vetted by the attorneys for Main School Management, and they're approved policies to share out.
So really, it comes before us 3 times
It does.
before we get the final,
Yeah.
give the final feedback.
Absolutely.
We have a motion to approve. Policy.
Second, are you then move to approve the second read policy?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Moving on to items of business, old business, MSAD27 technology.
We had put out a bid, a request for bids for a technology integrator. And we did receive one bid, and you have that in front of you for your consideration. Again, this contract would be full-time integrator on site, 5 days a week. We also have the guarantee, or we will have the guarantee in the contract that if this integrator cannot be on site, this day, the company would send somebody else so that we always have somebody. And we have that guarantee from the employer. Benefits of having a contracted service: if we're not satisfied after the term period, we can choose to not continue it or go in a different direction. This is only one consideration. I think I'll have to be honest with you that when we did post this, we had at least 2 teachers in-house express interest and said they would like to do that if it was an in-house posting. And at the time we had put in a bid, so I said, well, I'll take your name down, and it's food for thought. So I shared with the chairman. The thing is, when you take a teacher, put them in a different role, then you've got to replace that teacher. And I know at least one of the individuals who has expressed interest would be a very difficult position to fill. So that's for what it's worth.
Do a motion to open discussion.
So,
Isabel, any discussion?
then that figure, that's already been incorporated into next year's budget proposal.
And as I shared with you in your notes, the person that we're replacing did not take the health insurance. So the price is a little bit off because of that. However, if it would be, a teacher in the district making 50,000 and had a single subscriber, that we'd already beat up for this number, just with a single insurance. Now with a family plan, it'd be way over this. So that's just for your consideration.
I think I'm interested in seeing how this benefits our district for a year and reevaluates these kind of the payout is.
I will tell you, it's been, I don't know if a fight is the right word, but it's been interesting dealing with the union on this. And we're following, but our loan technology person has basically been reduced at the high school. That person was doing 5/5 of their time at the high school. We've asked them to do 3/5 of their time there, 2/5 of their time here. Is very able to manage both because a very task-oriented person and has already begun to straighten up a lot of what's going up here with inventory and things. So I know the individual is capable, but it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and I think we'll be okay. But this will come up again in negotiations when we deal with the IT.
Any additional thoughts? Sorry.
Ben, I believe in the past, during the summer, haven't we had students or folks come in and assist the IT department? Do we still?
Still left that in the budget, yeah.
Okay.
And what I've asked in this is that includes, this person would be helping with our summer in that capacity as well.
I guess I'm thinking down the road, because we always want to look out to train new talent.
Yep.
And if somebody just abruptly leaves that department,
yep,
then we get this technology integrator piece over here, but then a void
right
over there.
Yep.
So that's my only concern right now.
Yep.
Talent development, I guess. I agree. Cross that bridge.
How do you feel about it from the negotiations? And how,
I gotta abstain or with that.
okay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, does it make sense to table this until we have negotiations or?
It's not until a year
Oh,
from now.
okay, never mind.
Our position, we have not added work to our technology person's, we're not adding hours. We're not adding tasks. It's the same tasks. It's in two different buildings. We're even willing to compensate mileage between the two buildings. So reducing 3/5 and adding 2/5 is still a full position. The union feels that it's one person doing two jobs. We disagree. It's one person doing one job the best that they can, and we'll see how things go. But even based on the first 2 weeks, it's going well. Except for the obvious.
No further discussion, then all those in favor of approving the bid from GPS? For the abstaining, so. New business, item for information.
We do have a retirement announcement. I've got an email here from Susan Pelletier. I'm giving my notice of retirement. The date will be December 21, 2021. So we still have Sue to start next school year until December when she's able to retire. I have enjoyed working with the district very much and very appreciative of everything that has been done for me when my parents were ill. So that is retirement by Susan Pelletier.
Is a motion to approve,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Yes. Resignations.
We do have a resignation from Jessica Wishart, who resigned her position as an ed tech 1-on-1 at Fort Kent Elementary School. She found a new job with better pay.
Motion. Move.
Second.
Sarah. Any discussion?
How many hours was she working?
About 32.
Yeah, 30.
Ed techs usually work between 6 and 6.5 hours a day.
All those in favor? Unanimous. That carries.
And I put a letter on your packet, a transfer letter. And that came late Friday afternoon. Sharon Shasty and her team interviewed 3 in-house candidates for the position of the student-centered coach that you all approved last meeting. And Kayan Neto was selected for the position. Kayan actually did this job for the state of Maine in the Maine Momentum Initiative. She actually went down to a couple of schools that were in need and did some coaching. We allowed her to do that maybe 3 years ago, I think it was. And we got reimbursed part of her salary for allowing her to do that. Sharon, you can see in the letter that she just has all the qualifications. And we knew that part of the solution for this being a successful venture would be to find the right person who not only is knowledgeable about what coaching is, but has the respect for colleagues, and I think Kayan's the perfect person. So, if we can approve this transfer.
Motion.
You're
Not at the
confused.
same time. The second, Isabel, any discussion? All those in favor?
And I did talk to the union about Kayan having seniority by shifting over, actually putting that under the same umbrella as her intervention position, so she doesn't lose anything by this, moving this direction.
Wires.
And I got a recommendation from Jill Kelly to fill the vacancy created by Jessica Wishart resigning. And they are recommending Teresa Biggs, who has her bachelor's of elementary education from MFK. She also has a master's degree in education from USM. So the recommendation is for Teresa Bates.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
We still have some openings that now later, it should be an evaluator, school evaluator, continuing education secretary, VRMS social studies, and VRMS science. I believe, what's the target time for those, Mr. Coletta?
We have social studies interviews tomorrow afternoon and science interviews on Thursday.
Thank you, sir.
Planning the school year 2020.
And I am going to go over here. So we do want to present an initial plan for the fall for your consideration. And again, this is kind of where we were last year, where we're planning for a lot of the unknown. But I think we know more this time around than we did last year. So we didn't put together a huge comprehensive plan, because I think a lot of what we have in place is still going to be valid, but I did want to share with you some of the thoughts and suggestions we're making for your consideration. Oh, this is not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Valley Unified is committed to ensuring a safe return to school in the fall, same as we did this year, while addressing our learning needs of our students. We do that anyway, but it will be a focus, especially on those learning gaps. Now that we are a year into this and we're starting to see a little bit of what we're looking at, you know, we just know more than we did a year ago. What will school look like in the fall? It's difficult to know, but the Maine Department of Education will continue to require specific safety measures in public schools until a time that COVID is no longer surging in our state and communities. We don't know what that is. The state right now is working on updated guidance that they're going to share with us very soon, they say. They're working with the CDC in trying to make sure that all schools in Maine can be open to all students. It wasn't a big problem for us. We were able to do that, luckily, but throughout, you know, Cumberland and York counties, big problem. There are some kids who have been on a waiting list since October to get in school, and there's just no room for them. So they've been in remote because the schools don't have enough room for them to be live and in person. Our focus will be supporting learning models that meet various needs of students while addressing learning loss created by the pandemic over the last 13 months. So 4 things I just want to highlight in this presentation tonight: our vaccination and testing efforts, safety measures and protocols, instructional models, and then addressing the learning loss. So to start off with vaccination and testing, all Madawaska School Department 33 and 27 employees have had the opportunity to access the COVID-19 vaccination. The majority have done so. I know for this district, those who have chosen have got their final shot by now, the majority. And so we're looking at fully vaccinated staff very soon, if not already. Why is that good? Because when we have fully vaccinated staff, we don't have to worry about required quarantine of those staff. So if we have a classroom with an infected individual and we need to quarantine that classroom, the teacher does not have to quarantine, which is good. School-based clinics for students 16 and older have been set up, and actually they occurred last week. We had a Pfizer clinic that was offered by St. John Valley Pharmacy, Charlie Willett, and he actually went into the 3 high schools and vaccinated those students 16 and older who wanted it. We did not have high numbers. We had lower numbers than we hoped for. And we're hoping that's because the majority of 16, 17, and 18-year-olds have either got their own vaccine or made appointments for their own vaccine and didn't need to rely on our school-based one. But we did offer it, and Charlie's willing to offer again, I believe, a second time. When he comes back for the second dose of the Pfizer, he will offer a first dose to any new people who would like it. Peter, is that correct?
Both a booster for the people who've already received first vaccination. So it also serve as a clinic for the initial vaccinations, and then we'll follow up with Charlie for a date in June so that he can do boosters for those who make the initial.
Perfect.
Do the initial vaccination.
Good. So vaccinations are available, and we're trying to make them as convenient as possible for our students. If and when we have information on vaccines for children of younger age, I'm sure we'll come to you and talk to you about, how we plan to target that. I think that's a ways out, maybe sooner for the Pfizer than the Moderna, but we'll see how things go with that as it rolls out. Number 3, school nurses have requested the Binax Now Rapid COVID-19 test and will conduct serial testing for school staff who have been infected as close contacts. So unvaccinated staff can continue to work if they test negative each morning before work. So if we do have, and we have some unvaccinated staff, if a teacher in a classroom is deemed a close contact and is sent home for quarantine, our nurses will be ready with the Binax Now, so that individual, if they are symptom-free, they can come in the morning, drive up, the nurse will swab them in their car, get the Binax Now in the testing kit, get the result within 15 minutes. If that individual tests negative, they can come teach for the day. So that's part of the serial testing program. They do that every 10 days of their required quarantine until they no longer have to quarantine. So we have that's been requested, and Peter tells me as early as today that we have received our Binax Now, and we'll be ready to go soon if we need to use that. And then school nurses have been offered the chance to participate in the DOE webinar for the PCR pool testing program that has been offered to the districts. We're still early in what pool testing is, and our nurses need to know more. They realize that when you're looking at what pool testing can entail, it seems like a very, very big task, especially for a school this size or the size of CHS. So we're not quite sure yet the direction that our school nurses are going to go in. Smaller schools are a little bit easier, and essentially what a pool testing is you take a random sample from a cohort of people, you pull their samples together to see if you get a positive result. If you get a positive result from that sample, you have to then test everybody in the group to see who the positive individual is. It's a proactive measure. Not sure if we're going to go there just yet, because what we've been doing is working really well. And Monique and Rebecca have reflected that if it isn't broke, let's not. If it isn't broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're on the fence with that one as we speak. So those are the efforts that we're making right now with vaccination and testing. Any questions on that? Safety measures and protocols. All indications point to the same safety measures and protocols being in place in the fall of 2021, at least for the start of the school year. And that's what face masking, 3 to 6 foot distancing, hand hygiene, monitoring, and staying home when sick. Although I say that, just this week, the DOE removed the face mask requirement for outdoor settings. If you can maintain a distance of 6 feet or more. So we put out a memo this afternoon at 4:30 that outlines, that protocol. If students are playing at recess, unorganized chaos, they're going to wear the mask because it's hard to keep 4-year-olds away from each other at 6 feet when they're playing. However, if a teacher goes outside of the classroom and they have an outdoor class and they're 6 feet apart, they're not going to wear their masks. That's going to be totally fine. Our athletes no longer have to wear their mask on the field of play. So when our baseball players are playing, or softball players, or our cross-country runners are running, they will not have to wear the mask. It kind of goes back to what the fall guidance was for soccer. And even the fans, if the fans are 6 feet apart, you don't have to wear a mask as a fan. So even a little more relaxed than the fall. So we see things relaxing and easing up. I'm hopeful that by the fall, some of this will relax as well. Some of the ones that superintendents are most excited to see go away is that 3 to 6 foot distancing, especially with regards to your cafeterias and your classroom space. It's really, really hard, and it's kind of sad to see kids not being able to collaborate. It's pretty sad when we have put all the efforts into getting classroom furniture that's collaborative, and you group kids and regroup them, and we just haven't been able to do a whole lot of that. So we're hopeful that relaxes at least. Our instructional models, we're going to keep our 3 models for when we need them. If we need to go into remote, we have it ready. If we need to go into a hybrid where some of the kids are home, some of them are in, we have it. And it's based on school spread and infection rates, community spread and infection rates. And then if we have staff, if we have 5 bus drivers that have to go out on quarantine, I don't know that we're going to be able to have school that week because who's going to bring them in? So staff availability is a big piece of that. What we are asking is a change in our direction for school choice. And this is something that the Commissioner's Office will be releasing a statement soon, that the DOE going into next fall is no longer recommending or even mandating or even recommending that schools offer school choice with regards to I want to choose remote, or I want to choose in classroom. I think it's become very difficult to manage a lot of that. Although we've had 2 really dedicated online teachers, remote teachers this year for our elementary, it's difficult when you have kids going in, kids coming out, and you have some that are successful, but you still have some that are not successful. So at the elementary levels and middle levels especially, we're asking that next fall we no longer offer choice for those grade levels, primarily because we believe, and this is a recommendation from all your administrative team, we believe that kids just need to be in school, especially the younger ones if they need to. And families have the homeschool option if they want to keep them home, and we honor that, and we respect that, if they want to do that. To maintain a level of remote learning for some is just very difficult. For grades 9 to 12, I am working with the other superintendents of Aroostook County. We're working on an Aroostook County plan. We're calling it the Aroostook County Remote Virtual Academy, essentially looking at creating something very similar to the college model, where we would be offering our teachers to create courses, online modules, using like a Canvas or a Schoology or some kind of platform where they're creating courses. They would be following a set list of guidelines to create those courses, and then offering those courses in an academy shared between all of the Aroostook County schools, where a student who goes into the academy may have a math teacher from Fort Kent, but an English teacher from Caribou, maybe a science teacher from Presque Isle, depending on who has put in the work to do this academy. It's very new discussions that we're having as an Aroostook County group. But last week we did have the Department of Education Innovation team meet with us, hear our plan, and they think if our plan would be successful, it would be amazing. They've been meeting with other counties that are trying to solve their own dilemma as well, and feel that we have a good model. The first step of that will be a survey that we're just going to put out to our high school students for next year, and see how many high school students would be interested in making a year-long commitment to remote learning next year. And then taking those numbers and seeing if we have something that's worth developing. If we have very, very low numbers, and you probably saw Mr. Doucette's report in your packet, our remote learning numbers are going down every month. The people are coming back to school, which is great. If we have enough interest, we'll proceed with it. If we don't, I think our recommendation will be the same for 9 to 12. We don't offer it as a choice. It's very difficult for our teachers to manage online kids and in-classroom kids at the same time. So if we can create this academy through Aroostook County, I think we'd have the best of both worlds. Kids who would want to go in that would have to apply this. This would not be open for all. It would be only kids that have been successful in remote learning and can demonstrate that they can manage their own time. It can't be the truant kids that are just skipping school because it's better to do other things right now than go to school. So it wouldn't be for those kids. So that's our recommendation with regards to instructional models. And then finally, addressing the learning loss. We've been very fortunate. We had our it feels like a long time ago, but our December and January thing here in 27, where we did have remote learning for the most of the time. But aside from that, we've had kids in school 5 days a week, and it's been wonderful. We've given the teachers shortened days in order to be able to manage those two things. I'm hopeful that next year we won't have to do that because teachers won't be managing online and remote kids at the same time. But we realize that there is a wider gap than usual because of COVID-19. And our principals have been very active in brainstorming ideas of how we can address that. And just on the surface, we're going to take a targeted approach, starting with as many after-school things that we can do next year to get kids to stay in school after the final bell and try to recapture some of that learning loss. We're going to offer summer and vacation school. So not only just summer school, but how about harvest school? How about February break school and April break school? Anytime that we can have kids recapture some of that lost learning, we definitely want to take advantage of that. And then expand our in-school intervention. We did that tonight. We accepted KN's transfer. We're also going to look at expanding some other things with in-school interventions so that we're getting the most out of what we can from the school day. So that's part of our goal moving into next year as well. We'll be looking at KN's position that she just vacated and getting creative. Jill and Robbie and I are meeting tomorrow to talk about the best way to fill that position. Is it with another teacher? Is it with multiple ed techs where we can really target through those type of services? And we'll take that to you when we know a little bit more. But that's part of our plan as well. And hopefully soon, this will be part of our past. I think for now, we're just gonna have to live with what it is, accept the fact that this is probably gonna be going on for a little bit longer, even though I got my shots and I'm waiting to rip this thing off, and I can't wait to do that. But I think, until we get back to a normal, we're gonna have to learn to live with this and just do our best to keep schools open and safe. So that's our plan for you, and we're hoping that that's something that you can approve, so we can plan accordingly for next fall. But I will take your questions for sure.
As far as like extracurricular activities for kids that opt to stay remote, are we allowing them to participate?
We currently are. So if you are a remote learner and you want to be on the soccer team, you can be, and we have allowed it. And it hasn't come without us debating whether or not that should be the way. But because it was a school choice option this year, and because we have to also allow our homeschool kids to participate in our extracurriculars if they want to. It just felt like we've got to let them participate.
I would think for next fall, that would probably change or should change that.
Well, next fall, what I'd be asking all of you is we don't offer remote as a choice unless it's a Aroostook County, and that would be a vetted program that kids would have to apply to. It would be something that I think, we'd have to talk about, whether or not those kids could participate in sports or any extracurricular activity. I just feel kids need to be in school. They need to be in school. I think we all feel that.
Are you looking for a motion on this?
I would like you to approve our initial plan, and again, it's like every other plan we presented you, it's a living, breathing thing. Right now, this is what we feel it should be happening next fall. Next meeting, I might come back to you and say, okay, something changed, and we roll with it.
Someone want to make a motion on the plan?
I guess what's still in play then? Because you said the state's gonna come back to us with certain stuff, like, I just wanna, so I can remember, like,
Yeah.
what's in play.
Right now, the best guidance we're getting from the state is plan on what's in place now still being in place.
Okay.
That's the best plan, but we hear you and support you, and we don't think that you should have to offer remote learning as a choice. Have a plan for remote learning when you all need it, but having an a la carte subway style of education isn't something that we're created for. And your teachers have those middle high school teachers, God love them for managing both those environments. I have Anne Marie here virtually, and I have you guys, and just that, and Henry's not even saying anything, so it's a lot, and I recognize that. That student remotely doesn't have the handout that you just gave, and you've got to scan it, or you got to grab it from your Google Drive and push it out, and everyone's waiting, and it's a lot to manage.
I just personally, I'd like to hear the reasoning or the justification behind wanting to remain in a remote classroom. If those parents so decide their child, their best fit would be in that remote classroom for next fall.
Yeah,
I just don't see.
I think we have some parents who think they're doing the best thing for their kids, but some of these kids have been so off the grid now, that with parents enabling it, that I think we need to make the decisions for them of what's best for their kids, especially in regards to their education. Some people think that they're doing really well remotely, but when you speak to their teachers and the teacher hasn't seen them for 2 weeks, you know you're doing well. It's that type of thing. We have more truants this year due to remote learning than we've had in the past years that I've been. The sheriff's department is on my speed dial.
Saw a badge today.
Yeah.
I will say that I know of a couple, several, that have been positive
Oh, yeah.
remote cases, so I don't think it's all bad. I get that it's probably the exception and not the rule, and you can't do it all. I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to leave this year thinking that, with the feeling that all remote is.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
And I think that's why the Aroostook County Superintendents, we acknowledge that some learners can learn best that way.
Mhm.
I did my entire master's program online, and I loved it because it was my time, my management. I could work my full-time job and do my coursework. It worked for me. And some students, it's working for them. I think we need to create an opportunity where they can do that in an environment where they qualify for it and they're going to continue to excel. I just don't know that asking our teachers to continue to maintain that is a sustainable option.
I also think that the way you're describing like this new academy thing, is it gonna be like, you're not sitting in front of a computer with a teacher in front of you, or will that teacher be there?
Your teacher will not be there, but will be available twice a week for you to meet with and whatever, but it's an online course, right? You follow your module. The teacher might embed videos of them teaching, that type of thing, but it's self-paced.
Because that's a lot easier to like be able to have that than being like, oh, you have, because I have like Zoom classes and then I also have online
Right.
classes. And like the online classes are so much less stressful and so much easier because it's like your own time. It's
Right.
and we can just do more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess for me, as a, what we're hoping for, I am in favor of most of this. I'm not wanting necessarily to sign on to the regional program per se,
Yeah.
but I am okay with the aspirational goal of getting everyone in school next year.
Okay.
Like, that's where I am. I can say that with no hesitation. I
That's
don't know how I feel about the county or the state plan, like that's making me feel a little uneasy, but that's me.
In our purpose for that is because we do have 2 state-approved remote academies, the virtual academy and the main Connections Academy. If our remote learners opt to leave us for them, we lose them.
Okay.
Within a Aroostook County plan, we can keep them, they're still ours, in a shared capacity. And we have a lot to iron out, so
Yeah.
I don't even have anything to present to you guys.
I guess that's what I would say is, I'm okay with that caveat, which is basically, I'm okay with going forward this, knowing that that piece
Yep.
is a big question mark.
Yep.
And I'm not necessarily committing to any particular outcome there, knowing that I don't know what it is.
That's good.
I think that's how I would.
Our number one ask is, please let us have as many kids as possible in school next year. That's our big ask.
I support that.
Should we put it in motion?
I support the aspirational goal of getting as many kids back in school next year as possible.
That's for me.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, ma'am.
Novel Energy Solutions is a company, I believe they're based in Wisconsin or Minnesota, I think. They are building a solar farm in Frenchville. And the solar farm is supposed to start being constructed this summer and be fully operational sometime in the fall. It is Minnesota, it's right there. They have approached Valley Unified Schools as a whole and now as separate to see if we are interested in becoming a subscriber to their energy solution. Essentially, what the offer is Novel has taken our usage, school usage of power for the past 2 years. And they've examined how much power we use at Fort Kent Community High School and Fort Kent Elementary School. And they have dedicated a portion of their solar farm to create equivalent energy. So we use X amount of energy average in the past 2 years. They have given us X amount of solar panels to recreate that energy so that we can still have the same energy usage. The way that this works is that by being a subscriber, we are creating energy out of the solar farm that's fed back into the grid, and Versant Power gets the benefit of that energy from our solar panels, and they credit us back. They give us credits back for what energy we've created. And then we turn around and take that credit and we pay Novel Solutions a subscriber fee. So it's like paying them for our electric bill after our electric company has given us credit because we've generated power. And the benefit for us is they're charging us 15% less than what we currently pay. So it's a projected 15-year annual or lifetime savings on the project. I reached out to an attorney who specializes in this, and that attorney did say that this is going on like wildfire across the country. It's not just a local thing, it's everywhere, so much to the fact that the federal government is looking to start to put some brakes on a lot of these projects, because it is hurting the fossil fuel industry. So the first kind of warning that he gave me was, just be ready for this to go belly up. This thing might be all set in stone, but there's a good chance that a lot of these projects are going to be held back, and this might be one of them. He says it might not be, but it can be. There's no financial risk for you because you're not paying them upfront costs. You're not doing anything upfront. The only problem would be if that happens, you don't get this deal. So he says that's the first thing. He says the second thing that you need to be ready for is because they've quoted you on a 2-year average of your actual usage. If you do any retro upgrading in your facilities that save energy, and now you're using less energy, you've been quoted on a higher energy rate, so you're getting credits for those that you might not be able to gobble up. We get the credits, and if we're not needing to use all those credits, we have too many credits, and at the end of the year, we lose the credits that we don't use. So he says you run the chance of losing money that way. Probably won't be a lot of money, but you could hurt yourself by becoming more efficient. And I'm thinking we're putting new windows in Fort Ken Elementary School, and we're doing these things. So for me, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So he said, a quick recommendation I always give my clients is have them write up the proposal. Instead of 100% of your usage, have them write it up for 80% of your usage. He says you're not going to save as much in the end, but you're not going to lose because you're only getting the credit for up to 80% of what you normally use. Essentially, that's what the deal is. I asked, is there any danger of losing money in this gig? He says, not really. He says, it's just an exchange. You pay this and you get credits, and I mean it's really a simple deal. The kicker is the 10-year agreement, which doesn't sit well for everyone because a lot can happen in 10 years. So I have requested the opportunity of making this a 5-year agreement instead of a 10-year agreement. And I didn't get a solid yes, but they basically said, well, let's wait and see what all 3 of your school districts say before we agree on that. That was one ask that the Madawaska School Department had, was a shorter term. So I asked it, and they said maybe to that. Aside from that, there is no big concern. So I'm taking it to you. And I don't know, I did reach out to Versant Power, Maine Public, the electric company, to kind of get more information. They gave me a website that really wasn't helpful. But if you look on that website, there must be 100 of these projects throughout the state, a lot. So it's something that is definitely going across the state. And I didn't say wind power one time. If you want, I can reach out to Novel to speak to you all directly in a board meeting. If you want, I can connect you with your attorney to talk more about this. I can, or if you just don't feel comfortable, that's fine as well. It's an opportunity to save up to 15% on your energy bill if things can.
Because we're locked in for 2 years, even if they don't build a solar farm. So if they start building the solar farm and the cost of building causes it to not go through, with this contract, we're locked in for 2 years. So if an alternative comes around, we can't even jump ship because they don't exist yet. So I mean, that's a piece that I'm not really sure what to think of. Because if this is going to be a gold rush, if we're going to go, I'd like to make sure there's actually a mine. And I don't know if there is one here. I'd be curious to see if there's anything else out there that'd be willing to take us on with a guarantee that we're not tied down unless they actually build it, not a 2-year projected. Because that's what happened with the windmills was, okay, you're gonna sign all these documents. If we start a wind farm in the next so many years, you're gonna get all this money. It's a great deal. And once you adjust for inflation, we didn't get anything because inflation was faster than the payout. And I wonder if this is key to some, this 15%, because that's how they were doing with the wind farms. They'd say, oh, we're gonna give you this much percent. But if you keyed it to inflation, if you looked at some index, you'd find that after 5 years, it really wasn't a benefit at all. They'd be better off renting the field out to grow hay. Yeah. And I just, like, there's all these little pieces that I would wonder, like, is this thing gonna continue to go up? Is it key to something else, or is it a 15% at the base rate? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the things, and
I do know that they've approached many businesses in the community, and I've heard from a couple of business people that 15% wasn't the offer they got. It was lower.
really,
Our offer was,
well, we're gonna be here no matter what, right? So it's a premium. If I were gonna offer a contract where I would guarantee where I would guarantee sales, right?
Yeah.
Like if I wanna sell pens or paper, I'm gonna sell it to here first. Because you don't know if a business is gonna go under, this place is gonna be here. So I can see that. I would offer more to us too. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I'm skeptical, to say the least.
that's what the lawyer says. It's the first question people would ask is, what's the catch? And he says, it's not really a catch, you know, so it's
There are a pile of these going up everywhere. 2 to 4 times.
the owner of Tesla says that the US government built a 450 square mile radius grid. It could power the whole country. They should build it in Utah.
Until there's a blackout.
Yeah.
Right.
Big one, actually. I just did a closing for you. You too. So quiet. What do you think?
I don't really know what to think. I mean, saving money is saving money, but I think a lot of, like, it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of what if. I don't know. I just feel like you guys are saying that there's a bunch of these popping up. Like if everyone has one, there's not gonna be really, I don't know, maybe I'm not thinking the right way, but like, this person is selling eggs and this person is selling eggs too. You're losing out.
Well, in today it's 15%, and then tomorrow there's another outfit that comes in here and offers us 25%. Or, you know, so I'd just like to see this play out a little bit longer and let somebody else be the.
Is there an opportunity to join into it after it exists?
Well, I know that once they sell out what they can produce, then it's basically the farm is closed. So you have to jump in when they have availability.
It's like,
It sounds-
it's like shares in a corporation. There are only so many shares in the corporation. They're gonna sell so many shares until they sell out. I mean, that's basically, you're buying shares in this.
The demand drives growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have overwhelming demand. They'll buy the neighbor's lot, expand this solar farm.
Yeah, exactly. And power, it's not like it's eggs. They don't have to ship it, you know?
Yeah, not going away.
As long as it's north of Bangor, we can get it.
Yeah. Where's the engineer thing?
This is where the engineer hat comes off and the like fiscally responsible person just, I don't know, it feels weird. It just feels weird. And I'm traumatized by the biomass headache that we're still trying to navigate.
If it helps, the attorney did say they were negotiating a similar deal with LOB and a wind farm and a solar farm.
I think in another 2 years, we'll have a real good grasp on how all these window updates and everything else works out with our 2 buildings and the biomass metering of whatever we're using coming and going. So, say, ask me again in 2 years.
I'm willing to revisit it in like a couple of months.
Yeah.
Like, I really think we're gonna see some settling out here because, one, they're talking about expanding the electricity corridor to northern Maine, which we've never really been connected to the New England grid. And if we are connected to the New England grid and the Maine Senate was entertaining that changes everything. And I even think that they would change this agreement, because that would be a huge change in what we're dealing with. Secondly, I think we're gonna get approached by other outfits. And I think I just, if we got one more offer, I would feel kind of, to give me some perspective, because right now I'm looking at something completely alone and it always makes me a little uncomfortable. But I think if we had another outfit come in and say, you know what, we'll give you 12% and we won't, if we don't open up in 6 months, you can go somewhere else, or, just
Right.
to see what, it's hard to tell the variables are when I've never engaged this before.
Sure. Ben, have you spoken to any of your peers across the state? Have they
I
also
have-
been offered such
I
an
have not,
opportunity also?
the attorney did say that some school districts have been approved and some are considering, but I haven't reached out. But I can start doing that. And I can also start looking, if there's another farm on our grid, which is north of Bangor essentially, we can tap into anything on our grid. So if there are other companies, I can look.
Yeah, see what they have to say. That way we at least have something to compare it to, and I get a better feeling that it's not just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Speaking of power, where are we with the university and the what Sarah's talking about?
We don't have an agreement per se, like a formal agreement. We just received the billing for this current year, and it's right on line with what we were billed last year. So right now, we're being billed at 40% of the cost of pellets, which is about the percent of heating that we have compared to the whole grid.
Okay.
So
The
it's-
metering
it's
is
a-
working now. We have costs that we can see the justification, which is was the biggest problem. It was always a surprise. So there's no more surprise.
They got a new guy though, right? They're gonna get a new guy, right? 'Cause
They
they
already
hired-
have, yeah, and they made improvements, and they're currently putting in a backup, I believe it's liquid propane backup, so that if the pellet goes down or the prices go up significantly, that they can flip the switch and be on propane.
You think we could get the agreement, the de facto agreement we've been working on in writing?
We can keep a president there for at least over a year. I think.
Is that 6 months?
Never know. One thing that we did share with Keith and Sarah when we met with them last week is our meter on our end, our system is very old and failing. So we're looking to replace that in our budget, so we can have accurate data as well.
So we want to continue to keep this on for business.
Yeah.
We want to make a motion to enter into executive session, to discuss employee